Hello once again, viewers. This is Sim Daily, and we are looking at this program we call Let's Talk, where we are discussing issues that are happening in Zimbabwe, especially in these days. We are commemorating the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. I am Sis Mashir, and with me in the studio.
I am Yvonne Muchaka, and right now we're just watching the video earlier on that took place at the courts. We saw Mary Mubaiwa Chiwenga being wheeled on her stretcher bed at the magistrate's court. And we just thought it would be very important to bring this and have this conversation together. Mulukuzi want say, Maria Zimbabwe, especially at this time when we are commemorating 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And I know most of you will be like, Vanorotara Jagawanda Pamasaisai on social media. So we just thought to bring this special show where we look at the issue of power dynamics and GBV, gender-based violence. So when we're saying GBV, that's what we're saying. So we just want to hear from you. When you saw that video, what was your first reaction? Maybe I can ask you to see what was your initial reaction to this?
Um, to me, it came as a surprise, or should I say, I was like, how can they do this? Of course, she might be wrong for whatever she did to the child minder, but then is this really have to happen when she is sick? Do they have to put her in the hospital, in the court, whilst she's on that bed? So I think this is really not good for people, especially when we are commemorating, because this did not just happen to Mary only. We could see even what happened to Joanna when she wanted to present something in parliament, what they did to her. So I think this is too much, especially in this season that we are.
Yeah, so we're saying 365 days. We should recognize and realize that we need to stop gender-based violence. And a lot of you have come through. Anzina Nyasha, this is drama. Okay, I hear you. You say this is drama. A lot of mixed feelings, especially in relation to who Mary Chiwenga is and the role she played. I heard some people saying that when they are at such a privileged position, sometimes they forget about the things that really matter for our country, and especially in this season. So we want to have this conversation, Kuti. How should women really, when they are in those influential positions? I'm sure was is the vice president's wife. She's like the second lady, if there's anything like that. And that's who she was. And that's who we knew had to be before all the fiasco and drama that then ensued. And we see such an incident. She is clearly swollen, and she had to have those medics throughout the case in court today. And we're saying, was that really necessary?
Not at all. It was not really necessary. You can hear from some comments here that are on social media. Someone said this is not right. Sadaro Wakomana, this is not at all. And then Mary aided Chiwenga abusing Zimbabweans, remember. Some of the brutal comments that are coming through, and this someone said, Tim, this is not fair and this is heartbreaking too. Looking at I'm sure the government is the one who is supposed to protect the people of Zimbabwe, or should we say the women, especially in these 16 days of activism that we are saying we are commemorating, and we are trying to fight gender-based violence. And like we said before, gender-based violence is not just fighting at home or physical or what, but whatever they are doing today. Looking at Mary, just look at her body, her hands, everything is not well with her. She's not well, and I think mentally she's disturbed, and physically, emotionally, everything is not good with her. So I think the government should do something, and I think we should have the gender commission, Zimbabwe Gender Commission should be able to see things like this and fight for women's rights.
Right. I mean, you raise very critical issues, the issue of the gender commission. Is it really functioning, and what are the things that they are looking out for? Because when we are to consider what is happening in Zimbabwe, I mean, she's not the first one that has had to go through this, right? We've seen Joanna Mamombe going through the same thing, and even the courts saying that she has fabricated her own abduction, and all that has happened to her and her two colleagues. And I think this is really a point that we need to really hammer home, to say our judicial system, how is it there to protect, is it there to, I mean, is it there to even, is it a refuge to go to, or is just some court that looks at the political linkages of a person before they can really serve justice? Because I think a lot of you have raised the issue about her political connections, and some are saying that this has nothing to do with the fact that she hit a maid or something like that. Because I'm sure this could have. I'm not well versed with the laws, so I can't really comment authoritatively. But what kind of a bashing took place? You see, and what is the normal sentence that goes with it? Something like community service, something like 3 6 months in prison, depending on the gravity of the matter. And it could have been resolved, or they could have had compensation for the maid for what happened to her. So it's like they're trying to put an example over her, but which is not really legally related, but maybe to show that you can't really cross paths with leaders, especially in the political parties. It's a whole vice president's wife being held in court on a stretcher bed. I think it really looks bad for our whole system. What kind of justice are you trying to serve? I don't even think that the lady who was slapped is getting anything out of all of this. I mean, how does it help to bring somebody on a stretcher bed to her case? She was slapped. Give a compensation for crying out loud. Let the women, have their lives, and let's move on to more important issues. I mean, we've seen issues to do with corruption, issues to do with, as long as you're politically correct in terms of your linkages, people are, you just get bail and you're out and you're okay. But in this case, we look at Joanna Mamombe and the MDC trio basically, and they are still appearing in court over a fake abduction, they call it. And yet, these are the children who have experienced such trauma. The same thing with Mary Chiwenga. She's willed to court. She comes in an ambulance. She sits in a wheelchair in court with those medics standing by, because they know the kind of health predicament that she is in. I really think, as a nation, it's about time that we begin to speak about these things, because if we don't, we are simply exacerbating gender-based violence. What levels of tolerance can we take on? I don't think this is something that we need to tolerate or even to try and justify. Yes, Mary Chiwenga, he doesn't come across as somebody who has ever stood up for anyone. I mean, like Nigel Mshamge says, the tragedy is when this kind is enjoying their honeymoon and squandering government money, they never take part with people's fights. And now she's being put to torment by the same system she indirectly assisted to nourish. And the irony being that it is being done during the 16 days of activism against GBV and generally action against women's abuse. Yeah. I don't know. You also come through and tell us your own views and own thinking around the whole Mary Chiwenga saga drama. I don't know what you would want to call it. Is it nyaya dzeimba isina kufamba zvakanaka, or is it really a matter that is of serious concern? What is it that she could have done that is so grave that they had to will her, into court for her to attend, her case? Munacha akarohwa ari kubenefita pakaya. I think they should just make her pay, damages or something.
There is a comment from Yvonne Musarurwa here. She says, I stand with Mary Chiwenga Mubaiwa. This kind of treatment is uncalled for. When are we going to respect the sick people? Mary deserves her privacy. And it's a shame during 16 days of activism, bringing her on a deathbed to the hospital, to the court. So stop this gender-based violence. And then so we look at how then, besides looking at Mary's life and what's happening to her, but we can see with these systems, it's been a very big challenge for women in politics to survive well without gender-based violence. We can look at the history of Joyce Mujuru, how she was ousted from the political party and what happened to her. And we could also look at Grace Mugabe, everything that happens in these political parties. And it makes other people see that it's not safe for women to be in those or to be associated with these people, because whenever you say something which is bad or you try to point something, they will then come against you and try to do something bad to you. And really, it's really affecting women. And during these 16 days of activism, it shows that the government is not even taking the 16 days of activism seriously.
Right. And, Taurai Nikadzino says that whatever the wrong she did, the woman, this precedent being set will silence women forever. I believe this spells what these comrades are capable of. She did enjoy during her tenure and must be held accountable for that. She must too be tried for her actions in a fair, non-partisan manner. A united woman will help a nation to stop this madness. Power don't last for so long, but let's not be that an excuse. Let not that be an excuse to suppress the voice of a girl child. I beg my Zimbabwean brothers and sisters, let's not allow comparison to bar us from calling uh, for sense of humor. We shall be a great nation if we can stop Chiwenga from abusing and render our institutions useless. It will be good for a brighter future. And Hazel Chiname comes through and say they are busy singing 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, blah, blah, blah. Yet they're doing it. Chiwenga must stop abusing this woman. And Clive Chingovo comes through saying this is a clear gender-based violence by the male-dominated government. If it's true, then our country is becoming some sort of hell ruled by devils. Anyway, each person has his day of answer for his evil deed, the same way Mary is answering for her past evil deeds. So these are mixed reactions and very strong sentiments coming through from you, fellow brethren, fellow Zimbabweans, when you speak about this. And it's actually quite true. Like we're saying that, yes, Mary Chiwenga is not your saint, clearly, but she's not the devil either. She has got a case to answer. Let's take answer to that case. Let's not put political muscle behind her cases, and let's try her in a fair and just manner. Because after all, we all have the so-called human rights. They've that's why you see even renowned lawyers like Beatrice Mtetwa taking on such cases. She could have easily said, you know what, yeah, go and find some other representative. But she knows that this is a human rights issue. And what Mary Joenga is going through is not even a matter of what crime she's committed, but it's about to whom has she committed in courts. And I put that in quotes, you know, because we actually don't know why all of this is actually happening. But I think, like I've always said and contended, that our politics in Zimbabwe is actually really not good. Um, yeah, Chikwana Assembly, I should say Zimbabwe. I know what you're saying. Our country is just in the limelight for all the wrong reason. Kana achinetswa nemunhukadzi anetuma kumbo kwakazoita force mombe. Stupid. Okay. Lichimpi Rupere, yeah, I don't know what you're trying to say there, but we really appreciate the need as a country to come around together, especially during these days, to say these are the kinds of things that we are talking about when we say let's highlight the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence are meant to highlight those things that we call gender-based violence. So this is one of it. That's why I guess a lot of people are asking, where are the women's organizations that are always saying, yeah, gender this, gender that? But really, we are saying we can't have a system that abuses somebody on the basis of who they are or what paths they've crossed, rather than the merits and demerits of the case. Looking also at David Lamini, you say that I think it was not worthwhile dragging her to court in this state. Indeed, because I think Kesacha Zongo postponed. Because Akuna, what kind of conversation do you have with somebody who is in the state that Mary Chiwenga is in? Can someone introduce the system of a trial via video to Zimbabwe? Maybe they will do better. This to the world shows that Zimbabwe is incompetent. She may be wrong, but this is worse, especially she's not intending to run away. All right, thank you so much, Alpha Pokane Manyele. You are talking about introducing the e-system, having video trials. If they, I mean, they literally went into the courtroom for is it Womberai Nende, the MDC Alliance Youth Assembly deputy spokesperson, at some point when he had been assaulted and there was a case against him. They literally went into the hospital. So I think the precedent is actually being set. It's either we come to the hospital for your trial, whether you are dying or not, you will have that trial. If we want you to come to the courtroom, whether you're on your deathbed, like Linda Msarura said, Yvonne Msarura said, you still come to the courtroom, whether bring yourself on that wheeler so that we know that you really are dying or something. So I think that kind of precedence being set is actually very wrong. So, like I said, mixed feelings. There are those who don't feel sorry for her, who feel she deserves whatever is coming to her because of her supposed role that she played quite when she was in honeymoon, she was enjoying, and now that she's in court, let her have her day. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So it's really bad for her. I feel for her. I feel for her. Although I think the president or whoever have the authority, because it's the president who can say whatever he wants and it happens. I think he should take note of these things that happens so that we see that for sure as the president of the country, he is also against gender-based violence, any form of gender-based violence.
All right. Thank you so much, Tsitsi, and thanks to all of you for joining us as we brought you this special show, Power Dynamics and Gender-Based Violence. We'll definitely bring in experts during these 16 days of activism against gender-based violence so that we can take a look at how the politics of Zimbabwe is actually exacerbating gender-based violence. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast. May the good Lord continue to bless you. Let us fight together to build the Zimbabwe that we want. Thank you so much.